see everyone. Okay. Hare Krishna and welcome everyone. My name is Andrea, for those of you who don't know me, and a big welcome to those of you who are here for the first time joining us for our June Urban Devi. It is my honor to co-host Urban Devi with our dear Rukmini Walker, and I just want to introduce today's speaker as well as our topic. So today we have the great honor of having Gopi Gita Devi Dasi come to speak on deep connection through bhakti. And just a little bit about Gopi Gita. She's a widely sought off after leadership, education, and parent coach with a lifetime of bhakti practices under her belt. She has worked with hundreds of parents and educators and more than 1,000 children over 25 years. As a vice principal of a private school in Dallas and as an education minister for an international society, she knows exactly how to activate leadership qualities in adults, children, and teens. She steps her clients into connection, agency, achievements, motivation, collaboration, and leadership with a systemic path. Her clients find 100% success in only a few weeks. That's promising. How exciting, isn't that, everyone? And she's also the best-selling author of the book Leadership Parenting, which is available on her website, Gopi Gita. And again, Gopi is here to connect with us and share some easy-to-use strategies about the Bhakti leadership path, which can be used anywhere and anytime. So thank you so much, Gopi Gita, for joining us. I'm going to spotlight you for everyone, and you are all set to go.
Hare Krishna, everyone. So amazing to be here in the Urban Devi space. Feel very honored to be with Rukmini Devi, Mother Rukmini, and thank you, Andrea, for such a sweet introduction. I see so many familiar faces. I see some school kids. I see Champaka and Rohini. Welcome. I see Chitali Bonke, welcome. I see Mother Birmala, welcome. So many of you new faces and old faces. I'm so glad to be here. So today's topic was going to be about deep connection. We find ourselves in a disconnected space regularly. And so I wanted to share with you my journey in deep connection through bhakti. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can I just get a quick thumbs up if you can hear me okay? If everyone can just share a quick thumbs up. All right, great. And here we are. Okay, so just so that I can get to know you a little, I'm going to ask you to share using the chat as our way of communication, because Zoom can be kind of a disconnected space rather than in person. And so we're going to use our fingers a lot in this Zoom call. And I want you to serve with your fingers by typing in an answer here. Would you rather in your life get a hug or a compliment? Go ahead and type in hug or compliment. Okay, we've got hug, hug, hug. Oh, everybody's saying hug. We've got one person saying compliment. Amrita Kaylee, Deepa hug, Lakshmi hug, Champaka hug. Oh, I would love to give you all a hug. Madhurika, depends from whom? Good question. Yeah, Deborah, same. Depends on from whom. Geeta hug, Chandrika compliment. All right, great. Thank you. And here's another question for you. Would you rather get a gift, like a present, or a meal? Welcome, Tulsi Baba. Thank you. A gift or a meal? You can type in. Okay, a meal. Ooh, we got a lot of hungry people, maybe because it's early morning. Meal, meal, meal. There we go. Rita said gift. Amrita Kaylee said gift. Meal, gift. Birmala said hug from the previous question. Deepa said gift. Tulsi said gift. Excellent. These are a few different ways that we connect with each other. And so it's just helpful for me to see who is here assembled today. And we'll get right in there. She already gave a little bit of an introduction to myself. I want to know some more about you as we continue. And so I'm going to share a few categories, and I want you to let me know if this is you and if you resonate with any of this. This particular bhakti class is for those who consider themselves servant leaders. And I assume I am among servant leaders here in this room. And I'm actually, as I pause to think about all of you who have joined, who are taking your time Sunday morning to commit to this space and who have been committing to this space daily or weekly, there may be many of you who are deeply interested in exploring a spiritual realm here on this earth, and you spend considerable time of your life doing that. And today I honor your presence. It's also Father's Day. And so today I wanted to dedicate this talk to all of the mothers who are single mothers who juggle both being a father and a mother. You may also, so servant leaders come in three different categories. They show themselves by committing to three different spaces. You probably take extra time in your life for self care and meditation. Many Bhakti followers will do this for an hour or two every day. And you practice mindfulness in your daily routines with your relationships. You also choose those who you spend personal time with really wisely. And the last thing that servant leaders do is that they put aside extra time for active, practical service in spiritual spaces where they don't seem to be getting anything necessarily mundane or material out of it. They're not, whether it's volunteering or cleaning up or helping others, servant leaders manifest themselves in those three ways. You may also feel that you have a unique spiritual, specific purpose that you are meant to give in the world, and you're trying to discover what that purpose is. You may have already found a little bit of it, but as you journey on, every year, every month brings you another level of either challenge or obstacle that then reveals more of who you are and why you are here. The problem is that you may find in your spiritual spaces that you face disconnect. That as you're looking internally as to the purpose of your life, the purpose of your relationships, you find disconnect at work. You may find disconnect socially, at home, spiritually. And when you're faced with that disconnect, you may find, what do I do to get past it? How do I get past this disconnect to get back to my spiritually connected spaces? Because once you're spiritually connected, you can envision the path ahead of you and know exactly where your destination is. You can know what you are meant to do and how you are meant to do it. But this disconnect stops us on a daily basis. It can't even stop us in an hourly basis. And this disconnect manifests in so many different ways. The most prominent way could be that the disconnect manifests at work. You may feel at odds with your colleagues. You may feel misunderstood, unappreciated, undervalued. A friend just shared last week that she went into work and there was like a big team meeting. And in the team meeting, one of her colleagues that had worked on the project with her had presented it as if it was his own project. And she felt like, we did this together. And she was an integral part of that, but he didn't even mention her name. And so these kinds of interactions at work where you don't know which group of people are going to honor you and respect the things that you're doing, the long hours, and you're already feeling guilty that you're having to put aside other spaces in order to be confident and competent at work. You may also find that you're disconnected socially, especially since COVID. I'm sure many of us experienced this in the year 2020, 2021, social distance, right? Social disconnect. And so many relationships were broken, were lost, angry texts, painful goodbyes, where the group of people that you feel you're belonging to and you're hanging out with are not really your tribe, or the deep relationships that you have, your deep friendships. There's misunderstandings and arguments, and this happens on a daily basis in relationships. You may also be feeling disconnected at home. And this, doesn't have to be as dramatic as like a broken relationship but even just slammed doors and kids arguing and whining and frustrated arguments with your partners or your spouses, trying to explain yourself and feeling like it doesn't, like no one's understanding what you're saying, or misunderstanding what you're saying and taking it the wrong way. You may be feeling undervalued or underappreciated. And this manifests in fights and tears, and sometimes even deeper, sleepless nights. You may also be feeling disconnected physically. Many of us who were raised in America in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and perhaps even now, we go and look in the mirror and immediately think, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm too ugly. I'm too fat. I'm too thin. You may be looking at your friends or the people around you. Oh my God, they're so much better looking. Their hair, their clothes, this disconnect physically in not being comfortable with who you are, what your body looks like, or even this disconnect where you're working through some hospital time, some illness. My husband has faced some serious hospital time in his life, and he had to accept that his body no longer worked the way it worked before. He was faced with cancer, which debilitated his legs, and he couldn't walk and run and play basketball with the children. And that process of him accepting that disconnect of that was my previous identity and now it's my identity. The daughter of a dear, I want to say my sister, I was going to hide it and not say who it happened to, but my sister's daughter just broke her leg and it fractured in 3 parts, and she was bedridden and she felt disconnected. Here she was, she's a very active, jolly, very active young girl, always going, always going, always running, talking, moving, and suddenly now she's bedridden for 6 weeks. So whether it's your knees or your eyes or recent surgery, you feel disconnected and have to navigate that space. And lastly, this is a deeper disconnect where we feel disconnected spiritually. We have these lofty ideals of where we want to be, what our daily goals are, what our weekly goals are, what our monthly goals are, of the connection that we want with the Supreme Lord in our hearts, our inner parents, our source. And perhaps if we wake up and we do real solid meditation in the morning, by the evening time, we're like, oh my God, what happened to that? And why is this happen? Why is this particular circumstance coming my way? Or why am I facing this obstacle? Why is God letting this happen to me? And so that disconnect you may also feel, and you don't know how to get past that. You don't know how to connect to your real selves, your true selves. You may find your victim self or your non-self threatening, your shadow self threatening to take over. And so all of these disconnected spaces, they manifest in words. And the words that they manifest in are someone talking about you to someone else, hurting your feelings, your thoughts and instructions ignored, not valued, being made fun of in who you are, yelled at, belittled, insulted. When you're having a conversation and someone twists what you're saying, doubting what you're saying, arguments, anger, sleepless nights, and deeply wondering, where do you belong? Who are your friends? Where is your tribe? Looking for a deep connection. So, if this is you right now, why this is affecting you is because your goal and your true self is someone who wants to help save the disconnect of this entire world. So until you figure out in your own heart how to be connected, how will you meet your purpose, which is to serve this entire world? And we can see disconnect all over, all around us. Broken homes, money-hungry corporate spaces, homelessness, the percentage of suicide rates and depression rates, even the wars, the countries that are fighting each other are countries that used to come from one space. They're like grandparents and great grandparents were best friends, and now the grandkids are fighting each other. And then this affects your own deep drive, your own personal mission to serve Krishna, to serve society. to serve your next door neighbor, and to share the message of bhakti with others. For those of you who are really seeking deep connection, your deep connection goes beyond just your own connection. You have a need to make an impact. You have a need to show the Lord that you are here to serve others. And so this disconnect really bothers you. It really affects you, and it causes so much pain. So if you resonated with any of that, let's go ahead and drop a yes in the chat. I just talked a lot about different types of disconnect, and I want to see who's with me here. Who's felt some of this disconnect? Deborah says yes. Chandrika says yes. Lakshmi says yes. Dana says yes. Thank you for sharing. Ooh, so much of that. There's one that came. Let me read this real quick. The chats are going by too fast. Okay, yes, everybody's saying yes. You gave me relief that I'm not losing my mind, Poppy says. A big yes. Amrita Keli saying, Krishnadas Kaviraj saying yes. Madhurika saying yes. Yes, yes, yes. We all face this disconnect. And the more we try to seek connection, sometimes it can be like, whoa, there's so much more disconnect I'm aware of because I'm trying to seek connection. I've had these same feelings, these same questions. I've wanted all those things that you've wanted. I have felt deep disconnect in my life. And I'm going to share you a little bit of my story. I'm also going to share you the quickest path to connection, how it was revealed to me, the most powerful space of connection through the Bhakti path. So as she mentioned, I'm the vice principal of a school. I guide the Ministry of Education for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. I have an online leadership academy for teenagers. I work with teachers, training teachers. I've been doing this for many, many years. Very grateful to be in that service. I also have two sons. One is 21 and the other one just turned 19 2 days ago. And one day, my 14-year-old son came home. He had been accepted into community college and was doing college courses. Great accolades. He had been through the ISKCON school program throughout his entire childhood and been to a Hare Krishna school, went to college, came home, and suddenly told me, now he had been an avid reader since he was 2 years old, and suddenly told me that he could no longer read. Sure enough, we raced to the hospital, and the doctors within 2 or 3 days found a tumor in his brain. And with that tumor in his brain, it caused such an incredible amount of disconnect for me. Fortunately, I didn't find disconnect with Krishna inside. I felt deeper connection with Krishna inside, but I felt disconnect in every other space. My workspace, how are the tasks going to get done that need to get done? There was so much disconnect that even with my close family members, when I was around them, I felt the pain of fear and broken dreams and the fear of my child's future seep through every pore of my body. That only until my sister flew from India to be with me and sit by my side was I able to breathe again. When I would try to open the door for the school to help somebody, the substitute teacher, teach them what they need to do while we were in this chaotic hospital time, I was like fiddling with my keys and couldn't figure out how to open that door. And when I would pour the cereal and milk bowl for breakfast, I would find myself just like lost with the cereal there and the milk overflowing and spilling onto the counter. The disconnect was so deep. In that space, there was a 6-hour surgery that my son had to undergo. And that was the most intense period of my life. And through that 6-hour surgery, where, the neurologists and the surgeons are fiddling inside my kid's brain, like, really, this is going to happen? Is this actually happening? I went deep into mantra meditation. And as I went for 6 hours deeply into mantra meditation, so many things were revealed to me during that time. And I realized during that time that a disconnected space is everywhere. I saw parents all around me in pain, in suffering, with no answers. And I'm going to just fast forward through this real quick. And I was faced with memories of my childhood, memories of being bullied, memories of broken relationships, memories of my kids' childhood where they faced disconnect and pain and hurt. And I really dug very deep and prayed to the Lord's, please help me figure out why this is happening and what is the purpose of this that has come to our life. After a lifetime of service, both my husband and I were born and raised in Bhakti environments. The first 19 years of my life, I woke up at 3:45, 5 days a week, to attend temple meditation spaces. And so the questioning to the Lord in those 6 hours of why is this happening? Why am I experiencing such intense disconnect with my childhood's pain? And I was whisked to the comfortable space of my bed in the early morning hours, where my dad would wake up our DTs. And I was whisked to many mantras, but the primary saints that appeared to me are the patron saints of love and learning, Saints Gora and Nitai. And at that time, they reached out to me and they uncovered a beautiful bhakti path that I envisioned and that I have learned more and more about since that time. And I'm going to share with you that bhakti path. Just little parts of it. I'm actually going to be sharing with you the foundational part of connection. And alongside this, in order to have this path revealed to you, the mantra is actually what consciously, very personally uncovers this path. And so we honor that mantra today as a group so that the path can be revealed to you as well, so that the words that I'm saying can have some impact. So before I start revealing this path, I'm going to ask you to respond. You can just unmute and respond real quick. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Rama.
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Rama Rama. Hare Hare.
Hare.
Hare
Hare Rama.
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama.
Rama, Rama Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama. Hare Hare.
Hare.
Rama Rama. Hare Hare.
Yes, everybody.
Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare.
Thank you. So each of you are saying it so beautifully with your own hearts. And this is real high level, but the path starts off with the Sambandha space, the connection and belonging space, fulfilling the needs of connection and belonging. That's our primary space at the bottom of the tier. It goes hand in hand with Maslow's hierarchy, with Erik Erikson's psychological principles, with William Adler, so many of contemporary psychological leaders in the 50s and 60s, 1950s and 60s have uncovered this stuff, but the Bhakti path is deeper and goes far beyond what has already been revealed. The first space is the Sambandha space, or the connection and belonging space. Then you move into free will and agency. The needs of free will and agency are fulfilled there, and that's the Abhideya space. The third space is the needs of achievement and satisfaction and completion, and that's the Prayojana space. Once you have all three core needs met in the heart, you move into what is known as Dharma Samadhi, or purpose and absorption, full absorption. Academic terms, it's called the space of flow. And once you're able to know who you are, what is your purpose, and be absorbed in that service, then natural empathy arises. You can start looking to the needs of others, and you start learning how to collaborate, Sangha, and you step into Sankirtan, or win-win-win leadership. Sankirtan is the goal of the Bhakti Leadership space. And so this path is I have full courses, 3 months, 6 months. It's a 3 to 5 year process. But the basis of it is to fulfill your core needs. And the primary core need, the first core need to fulfill, is the need of connection, which is why sadhusanga, connecting with others, and shravanam kirtanam, hearing and speaking to others, are the foundational principles of the bhakti path. And I'm going to skip through the entire path so that we can get to what we're here to do today, which is how to fortify our space of connection. This is the entire leadership circle. If you want more information on this, please do feel free to contact me. So in my clients, as I'm working with my clients to fortify this connection space, they find that not only are they connected internally, but they can help their dependents, whether it be their students, for the teachers, their children, for the parents, their teams, for the leadership, those that are in leadership or team leaders. They find that they can also fortify their own connection spaces. And these strategies that I'm about to share with you work immediately. That was the story of a mother who struggled with her child's connection and found within 3 or 4 weeks that her child had happy play dates. Here's the story of another mother I've worked with who found difficulty in arguments at home with her teenage girls. And again, with the strategies I'm about to share with you, her daughters went from avoiding her and not wanting to be around her, arguing with her constantly, to now, and her story is so magical. Actually, everybody I work, all the clients that I work with, their stories are so magical, to now realizing that, seeing that her daughter wants to go shopping with her, wants to hang out with her, comes in the kitchen and helps her cook. And so there's so many stories like this that I can share of how these strategies work. The strongest result from the connection space being fortified is that through your internal work with meditation and mantra, you feel like you are seen, you're supported, you are empowered to see and support everyone around you. You are a force in this world, and you are never alone. That's the goal of fortifying your connection space. And that's quite the opposite of what was already shared with all those places of being disconnected. So do you want to learn how to do this? How to get from disconnection to the connection space? If you'd like me to share that with you, please type in a yes. Okay, we got some yeses here. All right, got a lot of yeses here. Lakshmi is yes, Sarvamangala is yes, Victoria is yes. Thank you. So Virmala is yes. Jean-Michel, yes, please. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we're stepping into another realm, the magical realm of saints, where they're so connected. Saint Gora is so connected that as he walks, the people who meet him feel so absorbed in pure love that they faint. And when they come to their senses, they go back to their homes, to their villages. Anyone who sees them becomes so absorbed in love and connection and belonging that they also faint. And then the people who see them also feel such deep connection and love and belonging just by being in their presence. That's the realm we're about to enter. And each and every single one of you, because you're here today, are deeply accepted by Saint Gora, Lord Gauranga, who wants you to feel this connection. to such an extent that when you walk in the room, those who come in touch with you also feel this deep connection. There are two sides to the connection. The reject space is the space we find ourselves in. And the love boost that Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu gave just by his presence is the destination that we want to go. In order to get to that destination, we have to first avoid the reject space. And this reject space I teach to my clients in 2 full hour sessions. I just have about 3 minutes to go over it here with you. And that's specifically in the words that you use. If you find yourself in any conversations speaking those words or hearing those words, you can identify that you're in a space for crows or a reject space. When someone has criticized you or you criticize someone, you eat like a pig. You'll amount to nothing. No wonder you have no friends. You'll never learn. Has anybody spoken to you like this? Have you spoken to others like this? The E is for embarrass. When you make them feel small and useless in front of others, or when you are made to feel small and useless publicly, shamed. It took him 5 hours to get his clothing on this morning. Can you believe how slow he is? Can you not get so many incorrect on your spelling? You might even find that you do this to yourself. Your mind does this to yourself. J is for jab at. When everything your child does is wrong. Now, this is a course for parents, but today we apply this for all of us. When everything you do, you feel is wrong. When you feel nitpicked, when you nitpick yourself, when your spouse nitpicks you, when you nitpick your spouse, when you nitpick your team members, when your mind, as soon as you enter a space, starts seeing everything wrong with that space. The pillows are incorrect, the shoes are not placed properly, the person is not acting right, that person ignored me, that person insulted me. That's called nitpicking. Does our mind do that? Do people do that to us? When the mind and the heart exaggerates, my kids call it spiraling. Mom, you're spiraling. When there's a problem and suddenly it's like taking over the whole world, making mountains out of molehills. When, there's one little fight and it's, oh, you can't get along with anyone. Everything needs to be redone. When my 17-year-old son did the dishes and I didn't notice all the beautiful lines and paths of dishes, but I just noticed the suds still on top after the dishes were completed. Everything is wrong. Everything is exaggerated. C, collapse, is when you feel you need more attention than the people around you. And teeth is for threaten, when you give yourself punishments, when people give you punishments, when you give your children and your spouse and your colleagues and the people, your friends, punishments in your head. And we see this on the playground with the 6-year-olds, right? I'm not going to be your friend. You're not invited to my birthday party. It happens regularly and frequently. These are all reject statements. This is the opposite of that beautiful realm that we had heard of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And in order for us to get to that realm, we have to be aware of reject statements. We have to be aware of how we're rejected ourselves publicly and how we're rejecting others. And first, we start with ourselves. How do we reject others? How do we reject ourselves? Each of us have a divine purpose signified by the light of the candle, a reason for why we're here. And when we reject someone else, when we use any of these statements to someone else, it's actually a manifestation of our own spaces of rejection. And the more we have been rejected, the more we will reject others. And that is the opposite of connection. And that in a space like that, it is very difficult for the pure bhakti love, pure bhakti connection of Saint Gauranga to manifest in our hearts. So first we must decide that we will never speak sentences like this to anyone in our spaces, nor will we ever treat ourselves with this type of harsh criticism, embarrassment, nitpicking, jabbing at, exaggeration, collapsing, or threatening. And we must be very careful how we think the reject sentences and how we speak the reject sentences. Once we make that determination that I'm going to observe this and not do this anymore, now we can start seeing, what did Lord Gauranga do when he was faced with those spaces? So there's a beautiful story of Saint Gauranga. Nimai, he was known as when he was a young boy. He had started a school, and his school was so powerful, it was heard about all over the world. He was the first principal for any of you teachers out there, and the first teacher, divine teacher. Can you imagine God as a teacher? God is the principal of a school. I'm getting sidetracked here because, I'm a teacher and I love thinking of Saint Gora as a teacher and as a principal of a school. One very erudite scholar, nose up in the air, super proud, had come to see Saint Nimai, because he had heard that this is just a 16-year-old boy who's like so intelligent. His glories are being spoken of all throughout the world. How can such a young boy be smarter than me? This particular guy's name was Keshava Kashmiri. We'll call him Kashmiri. And he was known as a Digvijay Pandit, a Pandit who had conquered in all directions. It was his goal in his life to prove that he was the most intelligent scholar on the planet. And for this purpose, he had a long, long list, a book of signatures for all the scholars that he had won, defeated, demolished, humiliated. And he came to the banks of the Ganga with young 15, 16-year-old Saint Nimai to humiliate him, to reject him, to break his connection with him. As a matter of fact, this pundit, this scholar, went all around India to reject everyone around him. His sense of disconnection was so strong, his insecurities in his heart were so strong, that he needed to prove to himself that I'm amazing and I need 100,000 signatures of the smartest people in the land in order to feel that I'm good enough, in order to connect with my true self. And how did Saint Nimai work with him now? There are so many strategies that I share in this connection space, taken from the stories of how Saint Nimai, Lord Gauranga, worked with these troublesome, disconnected people. And I'm only sharing one strategy, which is offering the love boost. There's three. There's empathic communication through the hear process, offering the love boost, and setting boundaries. But today I'm only sharing the one that's the strongest and the quickest to apply. And what did Saint Gora do when this guy showed up? Little Nimai, I'm calling him a lot of names. I hear, for those of you who are new to this, there's a lot of names for this one personality: Saint Gora, Gauranga, Chaitanya, Nimai. So hope you're following. And the first thing he said, now he was a manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nimai. And he knew why this man had come. This man had come, Nimai had 100 students around him, happily enjoying themselves. The students, their bodies got tense as this bully was coming in to defeat Nimai. And they were watching, what will Nimai do? What will he say? And the first thing he said, now it is described in some places that he chastised Keshava Kashmiri, but he didn't. When you read the fine text, you see that he glorified him. He said, there is no greater poet than you in this world. There is no greater poet than you in this world. Now we all know, those of us who know Nimai very personally, we know that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full of all six opulences, the best poet in the world, in the universe, in the entire creation. And as a young boy, he could have gotten insulted. He could have felt rejected, but he immediately gave connection to this bully who was seeking connection in such an outrageous manner. There's another story of Saint Nimai. Another bully, another angry, disconnected man who was looking for connection by rejecting everyone around him. And his rejection was so intense that he broke the drums of the kirtan of Saint Gauranga's associates and devotees. When they would go on kirtan, Chand Kazi, the Muslim magistrate, would come and throw the mridangas down. And he threatened them, if you do this again, I will kill you. His rejection was so intense. And there's a whole description of how Lord Gauranga decided to fix this problem. Let us go. They had the first Sankirtan party. Let us go and let us talk to him. Let us address him. Let us confront him. And a whole town, a whole line, a whole mob of people went to confront Chand Kazi with Lord Chaitanya at the front. But what we hear about is the mob and the anger and the tearing apart of the gardens as they got to his house. What you don't hear about, what you don't know, you may not know, is that Saint Gaura asked the mob to calm down. Yes, we know that this guy is hurting us, attacking our families, breaking our drums, rejecting in very violent ways. But what Saint Gaura did is he sat outside on Chand Kazi's doorstep before Chand Kazi had even shown up, a sign of deep humility. And then when he went in, the first thing he said to Chand Kazi, you are a respectable leader of religious principles. Why do you act with hate and hurt innocent beings? He lifted him up. This was a person who had rejected him and his entire society. And how did he find that strength to lift him up? Amanina amanadena. And then you see the story of Jagai and Madai. So there's two saints, right? Gaura and Nitai. And Nitai is considered the more deeply connected saint of them both. He's the first deity that we worship on an altar of 8 to 10 deities. He's usually on the left-hand side, and as you pay your obeisances, as you go through the altar, you remember Nitai first, Lord Nitai. And Nitai was being so intensely rejected when he approached the bullies, the rapists, the gangsters, Jagai and Madai. And if you want more information on these stories, the stories can't be told in 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm going through them real quickly. Each and every one of these stories is a good month of discovery and meditation. These are true historical accounts that happened in India only 500 years ago. And these bullies attacked Nitai, and blood was pouring from his face. And as blood is pouring from his face, he's saying, you do not know what you are doing. He continued to share love and give love. Of course, we know the story, most of us. Lord Chaitanya, Saint Gaura came on the scene, and Saint Gaura said to Saint Nitai, I am here to protect you, and I am going to kill these two monsters, and pulled out his Sudarshan Chakra, the discus of destruction. And Nitai couldn't convince Gauranga that no, we have to keep love. We have to stay in love space. You are not here. Your incarnation is not here to reject or hurt or kill anybody. Your incarnation is meant to share deep, loving connection with every individual. Please, I see that the wound on my head has disturbed you. But please, I beg you, put that away. Trust me, I know what I'm doing with these two. And Saint Gauranga still very angry, very upset, because this is the one thing he will not tolerate. And Saint Nitai says, what? To change Gauranga's mind? This is the sentence that gets that destruction of discus down. Dear Lord, you cannot kill them both. For Jagai, he saved my life. What? Jagai saved his life? These are the exact words that he has spoken, described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Madai is the one who took the actual clay pot and hit Gauranga Mahaprabhu's head. But Jagai he stopped. He had like a slight feeling that, wait, this is a saint. He's asking us to do a religious thing. We shouldn't be negative. We shouldn't be hurting him. Maybe what we're doing is wrong. And he held back his brother's arms like, wait. Just a slight feeling of like, don't hit him again. No, don't hit him again. And Lord Nityananda has glorified it. Lord Nityananda has pinpointed that tiny little feeling of love that Jagai had experienced and magnified it. For Jagai, he saved my life. Did Jagai save his life? Only the Lord knows. This ability to turn a reject space into pure love, that is what each and every one of us are meant to do. Every single person that was approached by the Lord with the aim of humiliating, rejecting, hurting, they all felt radiant and happy in their hearts when they had left. Whomever was corrected was never corrected in a shameful way, in a disconnected way, in a hurting way. They felt blissful in their hearts. And our dear Srila Prabhupada, it's a beautiful story shared by Mother Devata Diti, a dear friend of my mom's, and a daughter of Srila Prabhupada. And she said that she had given him a donation, a $20 bill. And when she handed it to him, he lifted the bill in his hands. You know, $20, maybe in those days it was equivalent to $80 or $100, perhaps this is in the 70s. And the way that he held that bill and fluttered it in the air, she said he made me feel like I had given him $1 million. That level of worth, of value, of connection. So how do we do that? Do you all want to know how to do that? I need to see your faces real quick. We're coming up on time here, and I want to take a look at all of you. Is everyone with me? Thumbs up? Okay, so how do we do this? Do you want to know how to do this? Let's type in a yes if you do. Okay, Lakshmi is saying yes, Dana is saying yes, Rohini is saying yes, Mohini Murthy is saying yes, Renee is saying yes. Just want to make sure we're all here. Santha is saying yes, Datreya is saying yes, Deepa is saying yes, Victoria is saying yes, Champakalata is saying yes. Okay, I want to be reminded as well. I have to be reminded of this every single day, and I love teaching it because it reminds me as well to do it. And so we're about to drop into breakout rooms to do this. And I'm going to share my screen again. How do we get from the rejected space to a connected space internally? And how do we do that to ourselves and to everyone that we are with? It's called the Love Boost. I'm going to teach you the first part of the Love Boost. It's a very, very summarized form of the Love Boost. The Love Boost stands for, L stands for limit your words. O stands for observe the opposite of the rejected space. V stands for verbally record it. And E stands for energize with equality. Now, this is a simple method that we practice as teachers. It's applicable to parents, to colleagues, to everybody. And I want to say I went to GBC College, and Mother Rukmini's husband, Anuttama Prabhu, gave a type of a love boost for all of us to practice. He had us practice for 45 minutes. We're only practicing for about 10. And this is how it works. As Saint Gora uplifted the opposite scenario, you are a great poet, you are the upholder of moral principles, you are going to uplift yourself and uplift somebody who you feel disconnected with in your breakout spaces. The terminology you're going to use, and if you're having difficulty doing it with someone else that you have imagined that you're disconnected with, do it with yourself first. Because the way we can do it with others is if we feel the love coming from our Saint Gora and Nitai in our hearts, from our inner parents in our heart to us. And the more we feel connected, the more we will be able to give connection to others. So it starts off with self practice, which is what mantra meditation is, and then practice to others. And when you practice this with others, then you realize, oh, wait, I'm feeling better about myself as well. I'm feeling more connected myself. So it's like a symbiotic, harmonious relationship of practicing this. So in the breakout spaces, you can practice this for another individual, or you can practice this for yourself. And how does it work? I have done this action that shows me that I am this quality. Or I see you have done this action or behavior that shows me that you are this quality. And that means something as simple as, today I woke up and I took time to chant 8 of my rounds, my japa rounds, my meditation spaces, really focused. My dear Lords, that shows me that you are my priority and that I am committed to you. For someone else, my dear partner, my dear spouse, my dear husband, today you woke up and you saw that I was really busy preparing for a talk. And even though it was Father's Day, you didn't come in and interrupt me, and you allowed me to take the space to do that. That shows me that you are attentive to my needs. The more we practice this, the actual words of saying this to the people around us, the more we will find connection. And if you have an opposing employee or colleague, and you try and say this once or twice, you will see the relationship shifting. If you have kids who are arguing and teenagers who are disconnected, this works like magic. And so we're going to go ahead and drop this into the breakouts, in the breakout rooms. I hope you all understand what it is that we're doing. I believe that Andrea
Yes.
Devi has
Yes.
already sent out the message.
I'm just going to pause the recording. And so for those of you who are joining us on YouTube, we'll be right back.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back. So we're going to drop into a few minutes of reflection. How did your spaces go? What did you get a chance to do? So we found in our group that we had a chance to do both, love boosting ourselves and love boosting someone else, and even the time to share a little bit about ourselves. I was with Datreya and Victoria, I believe, Gora Karuna Shakti. I'd love to hear from all of you. So because there's many of us here, let's get one representative per room. I'm going to go ahead and make it so I can see everyone. And yeah, anybody want to share?
You can either raise your virtual hand or unmute yourself, or we always have our dear Rukmini Walker, who's always brave and she's willing to start. So go ahead, Rukmini, if you would like.
All right. Well, I would say that in our group we had, I think people were being, the ladies were being quite vulnerable and sharing judgments of rejection of, their own kind of feelings of inadequacy or rejection. And what I was reflecting on is how much we compare ourselves, and we, like maybe I'm feeling a certain way that I have buried deep down, but I'm hearing the voices of other people judging me. And I was remembering how this one previous American president said something so wise, that comparison is the thief of joy. And so I think I find that so wise. I say Dr. Trey smiling, grinning. But yeah, like maybe I'm not actually feeling so bad, but I'm hearing the voices of people in my community or my family or my partner or my kids saying, blah, blah, you're this, you're this, you're this. And I'm feeling very rejected because of those voices, whereas I have the capacity to self-validate, I guess it would be. Is that a word? Self-validate. So, yeah, and also another thought that women in our group were talking about, I'm not mentioning names, but women in our group were talking about kind of an introverted kind of personal nature. And I was also reminded of, because I love poetry, and I was reminded of, I think it's the poet Rilke, who says that don't give up your loneliness so quickly, because sometimes there are many fruits and many things we can learn from our own maybe introverted nature, our own introspection. And maybe I'm not invited to the birthday party, but maybe I can be at home and go so much deeper and learn so much more just reading Chaitanya Charitamrita or Bhagavad Gita, whatever. So just there, and then I was reminded of another something. Here I'm being all eclectic. Please forgive me for people who don't like eclecticism. But the poet Rumi says, there's so many ways to bow down and kiss the ground. So, it's not that I have to be falling in line in, lockstep like the Nazis, doing everything exactly the way my neighbor is doing it, or the person I feel like is judging me, which may even be in my own head. But I can do it my own way and bow down and kiss the ground and be worshiping Krishna by so many names in so many different ways. I don't know. Those are just my reflections, I guess.
Wow, that was so powerful. I loved all three of the reflections you gave. That it's okay. The most powerful one for me was it's okay to be lonely, to go deeper in our own connection space with the Lord. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. Would anyone else like to share? I believe Andrea Davies said that you can type it into the chat as well. I'd love to see what has come from this talk, how it's resonated with you as well. So feel free to just unmute and share.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Yeah, both of us, we realized at the end of it that, when you want to say something that may be rejecting the person, and to be able to compliment them first, how much practice that would take, because you're not used to doing that. So that's really interesting. I'm really going to take that with me today and try and practice it.
Yes, it is difficult. Thank you for sharing.
Someone from another group?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Champaka.
Share with them. Sorry, I'm watching my grandsons. I'll look at it in a bit, okay? I do want to see it. He's showing me his art.
She doesn't look like a grandma, does she?
So I was with Sadhana, and it was just her and I, but we had a really sweet sharing. And I mean, the main thing for me is just affirmation and encouragement to do this more, because this practice is something that I already do as a teacher, as a grandmother. And yeah, to do it more, to take the time, because sometimes I'm in a, it just seems like there's so little time and I just have to deal with the situation at hand. Anyway, but I was also reflecting 5 years ago when I started teaching in a classroom where there was already a rejection culture established, and it was turned around. And it was turned around because of this exercise that you're having us do, and because of reading about Saint Nimai and Saint Nitai. We were reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the magical shift that it was incredible. And that culture has been reversed for those students, like permanently. Like they're just different people than they were when I first went to the classroom. So Thank you for the affirmation and encouragement to do this even more. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. That's like proof there, right? That when it turns around, it's a powerful experience. So thank you so much for sharing. If you have any questions at this time, you can also ask. You can share your reflections, or you can ask any questions you may have. We have about 10 minutes.
We could also use this time to share. You wanted to share your screen with your information as well, Gopi Gita.
Yes.
Some of the women get their bravery up to share.
Hi.
Yeah, please.
I wanted to ask a question. Is that okay?
Yes, there are a few here. There's Deborah and Champaka. So let's go Champaka and then Deborah.
Okay. So this session actually gives me a whole different perspective how to look at things, and I don't think I've ever heard a class on connection and disconnection. So it's something new, which I really loved it. I myself feel very disconnected with children, and I mean they do everything the way they do as a child, but maybe my expectations are more, and I'm always nagging and screaming and loud and trying to get things done. So I was wondering, how can I be more connected, and how can I feel more happy when I'm dealing with them?
This is one of the most powerful questions you have asked, Mother Champakalata. Champakalata Saki Devi. You are my people, and I'd like you to go ahead and join my website. Take a look at my website and
Sure.
get on a call with me.
Okay, sure. Definitely. I would love to. Thank you so much.
Powerful question. You are brought here because of your children's destiny has brought you to this space right now and to meet me. And this must be turned around. And that desire that you have is the beginning. So I'll be sharing my screen in a minute, and you can take a look at the URL, and let's spend 45 minutes together exploring this.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And Deborah, how can I serve? You're muted right now.
Sorry, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I was in Shampakalata's group, so perfect to go after her. But I just wanted to share that I used the exercise to address just struggling to connect with my boss and people in the workplace who live very different lives, and but that making a really big impact on me. And so I think it's really about finding common ground and opening my heart and reversing, the focus on just everything that we have opposite from each other, and making the space to find the good. And so I practiced, addressing things that I actually find really admirable in this person that I struggle connecting with. And yes, so I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Do you feel that would be easy to do or difficult to do? How do you feel about trying that?
I think it's actually fairly easy for me to try to be open in that way. But I think I struggle with that balance of trying to over-connect, over-compliment, and trying to connect with this person, because there can sometimes be barriers to entry with that person receiving. They might have a block. And so I think this is just, reminding me that this is very common. It's not easy to connect with some, souls that are in this, that are in this world. So just to keep persevering and finding ways. There's a lot of tools to think about. So
Beautiful. So you're discovering the nuances of it and
yes,
the difficulty that may arise in continuing to attempt because of your personality to want to connect. There's
right,
3 strategies shared in this space. The other 2 are as equally important. And the last one is also of boundaries. And so sometimes that plays when we are very clear on what we will accept and what we will not accept, connection, the right types of connection happen easier. So just, an extra food for thought for you. But thank you so much for sharing.
Gopi Gita, we actually have a question that was sent to me anonymously. So they're asking, as they said, it's difficult to go into complimenting people who we may be having difficulties with. And oftentimes they fear that the person may hear it as insincere or as if you're just trying to manipulate them or, of that mind. So how do we deal with those kind of circumstances? Thank you.
A very good question. Thank you. You're looking for how to make it real and not superficial or artificial. The practice is one that's a little different than complimenting. It's a practice of tying an action to a quality. When you tie something in the physical space to someone's quality, it doesn't increase ego. And it doesn't bring in the false ego aspect. It's more a factual, logical space. So when you say, I saw that you brought the groceries in without me having to ask, it shows that you're responsible, for example. You're not, when you say it in a way that's not over like, wow, you're so amazing, because realistically, if you have something against that person, if you're having some difficulty with that person, it would be fake and artificial to like compliment them, right? So the action is of noticing the qualities they have that's tied to specific actions. Okay, I'm having a really hard time with that person, but I just noticed that when we were in a group meeting and I was speaking, they paused their own conversation and turned to look at me. The nurtured heart approach calls it the lowest level bar. You lower the bar and you notice actions that are giving connection to you, even if it's like the bare bone minimum actions. And you start redefining that person's relationship to you by those actions. Then first do it in your mind, feel it authentically, then move into the being able to verbalize it to them. And it does not need to come with a big glorification, positive, extravagant compliment. It can just be as matter of fact as, I noticed this and it shows that you're this, with a peaceful space. Is that okay?
Yes, it looks like I'm getting a message that that's very helpful and that's a great clarification. Thank you so much, Gopi Gita.
Gopi, I just wanted to say what I'm hearing you saying is to catch the person doing it right,
Yes.
or to catch an appreciation from your own heart from the action that you're seeing. Like, in other words, like instead of nitpicking the wrong actions, catch the child, catch the boss, catch myself. Like you said before, I chanted 8 rounds today with attention, and just to catch that right thought or right action and honor it.
Yes, yes. It's such a wonderful way. Whenever you speak, I just feel I love hearing you speak. But anyways, let's aside. When you speak, I feel like it's Krishna speaking to me, Mother Rukmini. I have felt that for many years, so I appreciate your voice today. Yes, catch them doing it right. Bhavagrahi Janardana. Krishna looks at what we're doing right all the time. And we need to do this to ourselves more because the mind is stuck in a negative mindset of what everything is wrong in this world. And so the more we practice this with ourselves, with everyone around us, we can change, we can shift the space of connection as Lord Chaitanya had.
I just had to, sorry.
Oh,
I wanted
sorry. I
to-
was just going to say we have a question in the chat that seems like a follow-up to the previous question where it says complimenting someone, is it real or fake? If it's real, then whatever response or lack of one happens, then we're happy either way, right? And if no response and we're sad or self-doubting, then it's considered fake.
Mother Kunti, what a beautiful, nuanced, very nuanced question here. Is it real or fake? I believe each of us individually know the answer to that and have to identify the answer to that. And if someone who we're giving it to feels that it's fake, then I would say that a longer conversation needs to take place with that person. There's a simple answer. And then Amrit.
Yeah, Amrit is next. Thank you.
Yes, I didn't have a question. I wanted to share about the breakout room.
Yeah.
So it was just myself and one other person. But we basically shared a little bit of like a personal stories. And then one thing that I think that really resonated that we appreciated was, and I think this might resonate with a lot of the women in the group, especially the mothers, is sometimes we have the, and this is totally normal, sometimes as mothers, we have the tendency to, and it shows love and care to want to control the actions of our children. And if they're not in line with what we think, again, or our mind thinks is appropriate, we get frustrated and angry. Sometimes that's a sign of love and caring, but also I think it's also important as human beings and individuals to recognize the need of surrender, surrendering and just understanding that we've done our job, to prepare the foundation and value system of the duckling. Now it's time to let the duckling go and recognize his or her own role in this world and their divine purpose, because we're fostering the next generation of independent thought leaders and mind leaders. And so sometimes that disconnect, because that's another chapter of, the relationship between a mother and a child is there's the beginning years and there's like the independence years. And as they're becoming adults and having minds of their own, I think it's good to like just look at it from a perspective. I've raised an independent child and now they're going to be making their own decisions and, rather than being dependent on me. So just the concept of surrendering, letting go of control and understanding that there's a purpose and for everything and everyone in this world. And there's certain things like divine timing that we just can't control and we shouldn't try to control.
Wow, so powerful. You basically just summarized the 6th chapter of my book. And this starts with the topic of control. It talks about, so you're recognizing the importance of practicing this with our children, because as the next generation, as you so beautifully stated, they must feel empowered. They must feel empowered to figure out who they are, what actions they are that lead to what qualities. And the more we try to control them and diminish them by our own ideas, then they can't stand up and know what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to act and who they are, constantly looking at themselves through the lens of our eyes of rejection and control. I loved everything you were saying. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have met you and hear from you. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Gopi Gita, for being such a powerful leader to us today and leading us through all this. Unfortunately, dear ladies, we are at the end of our Urban Devi Sangha. So I'm just going to ask if we could just have Gopi Gita quickly share her screen so that she can share her information. And as you can see, at gopigita.com, you can sign up for her newsletter, you can get a free consult or join a course. And I've also put the link to her website in the chat. And we have also shared various times that if you want to continue this Urban Devi kind of conversation, you can join our Urban Devi WhatsApp groups, either discussion or announcements, and we'll take it from there. And please, dear Rukmini Walker, share with us what will be coming up next.
Yeah, so next next month in July, if you could please put it on your calendar, and I'm just looking for the day. Yes, it's July 16th. And we have a very different kind of a personality lady leading the group on July 16th. She's a stand-up comic. She's an initiated devotee, and she's also a professional stand-up comic in Los Angeles, which is a very competitive atmosphere. So her name is Shama Sangita, and her professional name is Asta Lal, if you want to look her up. And she's going to talk about a comedic retelling of the Bhagavad Gita, which will be super fun. The last time she presented at Urban Devi, it was just more fun than a barrel of monkeys. So please join us. Please mark your calendars for July 16th. And please join our Urban Devi group so that you don't miss us, so we can stay connected. And wonderful to have you all here. Thank you so much for being here. Our great honor. And thank you, Gopi Gita, for this very, very deep and wise presentation. Thank you for your beautiful, deep and wise heart. And all you do for the children and the moms and the dads and everyone in the Krishna consciousness movement. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Gopi Gita. Thank you, Rukmini Walker, for always putting together these beautiful urban Devis and finding us amazing speakers to inspire us and lead us on. So we look forward to seeing everyone very soon.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.